Hello, and welcome to the Small Business Tax Savings Podcast, powered by Jetro and Associates. Get ready for another action-packed episode from our team that will help you save time, taxes, and keep more money in your pocket.
Hello and welcome back. I am your host, Mike Jezoshak, and I'm a CPA and founder over at Jetro, an innovative accounting firm servicing small business owners across the country. Today we have an awesome episode. I have a special guest, Yoseph West from Relay. And Relay is just really kind of a modern way to do banking. And so Yoseph is going to kind of explain that a little bit more, but I actually had the opportunity to meet him at a conference a couple weeks ago, and it really opened my eyes to the potential and kind of the new way of doing banking. And I think as listeners of this show and as our clients, you know, one thing that we are is we're very tech savvy and we utilize technology to better serve our clients. And so this is just kind of that one piece that we didn't really have a solution for. The banking piece seemed like it was always kind of archaic. So I think that you're going to really enjoy the episode and what we're going to talk about today. So Yoseph, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
Awesome. And Yoseph, you're located up in Canada, right?
Up in the Great White. Yeah.
Okay.
In Toronto.
Yeah. So how's the weather up there right now?
Yeah. So we've just had like a cold spell, like an unseasonably cold, like November, like it was like minus 10 Celsius, which, you know, for most people who are like, oh, when they hear Canada, like, oh, it must be freezing up there. Most of the time it isn't. But this time, like, you know, every call I got on, they're like, oh, you're in Canada, it must be cold. It's like, yeah, it is cold. I'm wearing my winter jacket. It should be fall. But it's just pulling out. Yeah.
Yeah. I think we kind of had the same spell. Our fall was about a day long, and then we got snow on Halloween. So it was just crazy. So for all of our listeners down in the southern states, just appreciate where you live sometimes because you're not dealing with this. So Yosef, just to kind of give the audience an idea of your background, where you come from. Sure. I know you've been in the tech space for a while. So just kind of give everyone a little preview of where you came from and why you're here.
Absolutely. So I've been working in financial technology for the better part of a decade, maybe 9 years, 10 years, something like that. Starting out kind of with my own company that ended up joining Wave Accounting. And then most recently at a company called HubDoc, which was basically like a central repository for small business financial documents. I joined them as the third employee and helped them scale up to like 80 people and offices across Toronto, Sydney, and London. So we were able to build kind of a global team, which was really exciting. And now working on Relay, which is like no fee banking for small business. And we'll talk about kind of the trends that are occurring in banking and generally in like, you know, automation of the back office and what are the opportunities that could exist for banking and how banking can actually make small business owners' lives better.
Yeah, and I think it's really awesome to hear that you came from HubDoc because, you know, HubDoc is definitely a leading edge software in the industry. And for those that didn't know, Xero actually purchased HubDoc recently. So they're definitely kind of they're a game changer when it comes to document collection, things like that. So regarding Relay and kind of this new way of doing banking, you know, you kind of mentioned neo banking as sort of, or digital banking as sort of the new age of banking. So, you know, in an accounting context and for small business owners, why does that matter? And what is different? And what is, you know, how does this compare to what business owners are used to when it comes to banking?
Yeah. So let's start with like the definition of kind of what a neobank is, like what a digital bank is. And what that experience is. And then let's work our way down into like, how does this impact small business and how does it impact, you know, kind of accounting automation? And really like when we say accounting automation, we're really talking about like financial visibility because that's really the end goal. And so what we've seen in the like last 5 years is that, you know, we've seen every part of kind of the back office stack change. There's only one part of the stack, as you mentioned, that hasn't changed. It's the bank account. And so what started to happen, especially on the consumer side, actually almost exclusively on the consumer side in the past few years, we're just starting to get going on the small business side, is you have banks like Chime or N26 or Revolut or Monzo who have opened digital banks for consumers. And the kind of value prop is threefold. One is you can sign up online inside of 10 minutes and actually get like a bank account, right? So you don't have to go to a branch. You don't have to bring all your paperwork with you. You can just figure it out online. It's all really easy. Yep. Two is Like you get no fees, so you're not getting charged to use your money, which is kind of nice, right? It's like our money. You're getting the benefit of holding it. You should, I shouldn't be paying you for that honor.
Yeah.
And then 3 is you actually get a better user experience. So you get software that works with you that helps you better understand your financial situation. And so that's kind of the table stakes when it comes to like neobanking. So easy to sign up, no fees, and a great customer experience from a product perspective. And yeah, so that would be like the high level view.
Yeah, that makes sense. And that kind of hits home for me recently is because I've actually, with our bank, a more local bank, we've had their business representative continue to reach out to me and say, "Hey, we need you to come in. We want to discuss your bank accounts and things like that." And I said, "Well, I'm running a business, so my time to check out a banking account or to come into your office to discuss our banking account is very limited. So if you can send me any kind of information, that'd be great." And there's just no information to come over. So, it's kind of that new age approach. And we do that in our accounting firm you don't need to, certain aspects, going into meetings and going into having to actually go into a physical office can actually slow you down and be an inconvenience to you. And so we see that in our firm, and I see that in banking as well. So I think that is, like you mentioned, it's working, it's moving that way on the personal side, but the business side seems to still be kind of stagnant in kind of that old school way of doing things.
Yeah. And like the shift is like typically these trends from like a macro perspective, typically how it goes is like it's consumer first and then it's small business, right? People experience it in their personal lives and they're like, hey, why doesn't my business run like this?
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we've seen platforms like Xero and QuickBooks Online, which are much more user friendly than the accounting systems 10 or 15 years ago. And we're seeing that shift now start to extend to small business banking. And so, we talked about, okay, high level, easy sign up, no fees, financial visibility as like the 3 things, the core tenets of like digital banking or neobanks. And when we think about that in like an accounting context or like a small business context, there's deeper functionality that's required to be able to deliver value beyond that. I think it's nice if you're like just starting a new business and you're like, hey, I need a bank account. You're going to go and sign up for, a small business digital bank account, because instead of having to spend half your day at a branch, bring all these papers, hopefully you brought all the right papers. I know when I go to the bank, I just assume it's like a trial run, and there's something I'm gonna have to go and get and then bring back.
Yep.
Yeah. And so, if you're just starting your business, like the digital bank option is like a no-brainer. If you have a pre-existing business, then the question becomes like, how does, a digital bank like Relay deliver value above and beyond what I already have? And so, ease of use, great customer service, no fees, valuable. Are they enough to drive someone to entirely switch or start to change their behavior? Our belief is that if the underlying product is very similar to what their experience is today, whether it's with Bank of America or Chase, it's not enough to switch.
Mm-hmm.
And the way we think about it is, how do we deliver value around the workflows for small business owners? Mike, you talked about how like, hey, this bank manager or whoever it was, this perhaps salesperson called me up saying, hey, I want to talk about your banking, but you instantly identified that probably this conversation wasn't going to be of a material amount of value to you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you really just want to get back to running your business and making your business better. And I think that's kind of the ethos difference between, a company like Relay and, Bank of America, Chase, Wells Fargo. And so the way we integrate kind of the small businesses workflows into the banking is by making it really easy for business owners to actually collaborate on their banking, whether it's with an advisor like yourself and provisioning access, or it's with their own team members. Like they can actually like issue cards to their team members or give, team members access to their Relay account without giving them full banking access, which is quite nice.
Mm-hmm.
They can actually automate their payables all online, which is great. So if you need like approvals, you need to like import bills from anywhere, you can streamline that process significantly. And then 3 is you can actually manage your business spending through our card issuance product. So you can issue MasterCards through Relay.
Yeah, so I think the big thing is when someone says, okay, we have this digital bank, but we're going to lose a lot of what we already have. So whether that's ACH processing or multiple credit cards for debit cards for our team and things like that. When the fact is that's not true, it actually can enhance that experience. So you're not losing the ability to do everything you can do with your current bank, but you're just enhancing that experience to be much more easier, simple, and of course, no fee, which is a huge added benefit, right?
Absolutely. And like our initial push with our product has been to get to like banking feature parity. So everything you can do in your current bank account, and when I say current bank account, I'm talking about like, if you use a more technology forward bank like Chase or Wells Fargo, you'll be able to do inside of your Relay account. So you can make ACH payments, you can do domestic wires, you can do international wires, you can send out checks. You can issue cards for yourself and team members, which I don't think they necessarily make super easy. Um,
Yep.
and when we think about kind of that switching conversation, I think we're all naturally kind of trained over time that when someone's like, "Do you want to switch your bank?" everyone instantly goes like, "Why?" And it's because like the experience they've had traditionally is like quite mediocre, and the only other experiences they assume they will have with other banks are like mediocre experiences. And
Hmm.
when you ask them to switch, it's like the only thing between these two mediocre experiences is kind of pain, right? And when you're delivering banking that actually enables small business owners to grow, and it's actually designed to help small businesses grow through collaboration, through automating payables, through like driving just efficiencies in their business, you have an opportunity to say, hey, you don't actually need to change from Bank of America or Citibank or Wells Fargo today or your local credit union today. You can actually keep that account, but let's start using Relay for this use case, like automating your payables, for issuing cards to employees. And what we see today, and this happens like entirely organically, people are like, okay, I'm going to start using Relay purely for bill pay. I'm tired of Bank of America. I'm tired of all the fees that they're charging me. I'm tired of how hard it is for me to use.
Hmm.
And so they throw $1,000, $5,000, $10,000 in their Relay account. And they start testing it. They start building trust. Perhaps they ping our customer service team and they see how responsive we are. They see how much we actually like care about them and their business and their success. And this combination over time effectively results in them saying, okay, I'm doing all this stuff with Relay. Why am I using Bank of America at all? And they actually make that switch organically, which is, I think, really special.
Yeah.
And I think yeah.
I think that that's a really key point because when people think of switching banks, it almost sounds worse than getting a tooth pulled or something like that because they're thinking, okay, I need to change all these direct debits out of here. I need to change all of my payables to go out of somewhere else. And when people think of that as a whole, that seems impossible or something that's going to take a lot of time, effort, which business owners don't have. But the way you talk about it is that transition doesn't have to happen all in one. It can be a steps that you take to move to that digital space, to move to that new way of banking over time. It's not something that just happens overnight, that you have to make that entire switch. And the beauty about it is having the no fee banking means that switch makes it a lot easier. If you wanted to go from Chase to Wells Fargo, you could do that similar situation, but now you're paying fees at both sides. And so that's a key situation, is that the no fee piece makes it, almost inviting for people to say, hey, let's try this out. What could you lose? Because there is no downside. If they try something out and they say, I don't like that. I like going to my bank, which I don't think many small business owners will admit something like that. But if you are in that stage where you say, I like having my personal banker, I like going to my bank, you can always back out and there's nothing lost in that transition.
Absolutely. Like your worst case is that you found a way to automate a specific pain point, right?
Mm-hmm.
So whether that's automating payables or like managing, team spending, um, that's your like worst case. Your best case is that you found a new bank that delivers great customer service that's easy to use and makes it easy for you to actually get financial visibility. So I think that's the other part of this conversation, right? That's how we got connected. Is that Relay makes it easy for a lot of data to actually to get to you as the advisor,
Mm-hmm.
right? To be able to do the bookkeeping, right? Like we have a direct bank feed into Xero. We're one of just 15, like 1 5, banks in the US that have that direct integration. And, I think like from my experience at HubDoc, I know how big of a pain point actually access to banking data is for, an advisor like yourself, as well as for the small business owners who are either handing over their full bank login access, right, which creates a lot of financial risk and financial liability,
Mm-hmm.
right, or two is they're actually managing the integration themselves, and it breaks, and so it creates a lot of back and forth between you and the client when what they want is just focus on growing their business, and what you want is to be having conversations that are value add for their business, right?
Yeah. And I think that's key on my side, on the accountant side, is that our goal is to involve the client as least as possible. We want to make sure, we want to be able to give them financials. In a perfect world, we give them financials on how their business is performing without needing absolutely anything from them. Now, that's a perfect world. So things aren't always perfect, and there might be things that we need from them. But this helps ease that relationship much more because we're on a much more modern type system. We had this problem recently where we have a guest access to a bank login, and every 2 weeks the login gets disconnected, and so they have to call the bank, reset the login, we get logged back in. But that's an every 2 week process, and so not only is that painful for us, but for us to have to go to the client and say, I'm sorry, but we can't log into your bank anymore, so it's hard for us to complete our work because we don't have access to transactions, checks, everything else. It's very difficult. That disconnect is tough, and so that's an issue that you see across all types of banking right now. And that's one thing that when talking to you, I said the first thing we talked about is how do you alleviate that problem, because it's a problem across all banking. So how do you alleviate that problem? And you said, simply put, that's the new way of doing banking. We're not running on old systems anymore. This is how things should be done. And it's just kind of using that technology to provide that better expectation.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
as far as how Relay, goes, from my understanding, the key points in Relay is that it's very similar. You get the same benefits plus some that you would at a normal bank. So if you want to write a check, or you want to ACH someone, or you want to wire someone, you can still do all those things directly in this bank account. So it's not just a place for your money to sit and not really be able to access it, or it's a cool dashboard. It's much more above that,
Yeah.
saying this is an actual replacement, because you can do the same things that you were doing before, except those processes are going to be much smoother from your previous experience.
Absolutely. So I think the things to kind of talk about, like I love to think about incentives, right? From our perspective, our incentive is to deliver like a 10x better experience with Relay than you would get at Bank of America, at Chase, at Wells Fargo. And that's across, making it easy to collaborate, automating payables, as well as managing team spending. And I think all of that is wonderful. But I think what's also worth talking about is, we are no fees, right? And so the way that we actually make money is when people spend money on our MasterCards, right? So think about that from that, like, as a customer journey. So you set up a Relay bank account, you have to deposit funds. Perhaps you pull the funds across from your existing bank account. You hook up all your merchant accounts, or your Stripe, Shopify, Square, Amazon, whatever you're using. And you start getting funds in, and then you start making payments, and then you issue cards to, for yourselves, for you and your business partner, or business partners, as well as like your employees. And then you start spending, right? And so the onus is on us for us, like, to grow and become like a meaningful business, is to deliver a lot of value for you to get to that point and get across that journey. Right. And so what we've seen is, yes, we do deliver a lot of value across that journey, but the bar here isn't that, oh, you've signed up and now you pay us $20 a month, or you pay us $40 a month, right? And we'll try and get you active and try and get you using the product. The bar is, we actually need you to be using the product for us to be able to generate revenue,
Mm-hmm.
right? And when you think about like how much higher that bar is than your traditional SaaS company, it creates a lot of like pressure on us to actually like go and deliver that value, make an amazing like payables management solution, make it easy for you to be able to manage team spending, make it easy for you to collaborate with your accountant or bookkeeper. And that is really the bar that we hold ourselves to. And it's really an alignment between the success of the small business and our success. When small business owners are very successful through Relay, we are then successful. It's not that we are successful first and then the small business owner is successful.
Yep.
And I think that's like a change in mindset from traditional banking, where the fact that the account manager at your bank called you up and said, "Hey, I want to sell you something," effectively, right? As opposed to thinking about, okay, how do I actually find out what Mike's problems are that I can go and solve, right? Like, it's a very different mindset that traditional banking doesn't have, and that people who have been building software for as long as we've been building software have. We start with the customer problem and then we work our way up.
So when someone says, I want to try this out, or I want to pick one specific use case, whether that's employee cards or whether that's payment processing, whatever it is, and they say, okay, I want to try this out, but now I'm worried about how long does it take funds to get to the account? How easy is it to load up this account? Explain that process a little bit, kind of what type of time frame people can expect when going through that.
Yeah, so you can sign up and register for a bank account, and everything will be like fully verified inside of like 10 minutes. So it's a pretty fast like onboarding process to be able to pull funds into your bank account. Let's say you're pulling it from your Bank of America or your Chase account. You just log in using your username and password, and then that bank, say Bank of America, it says, hey, here are the accounts associated with that set of logins. Which ones do you want to link to Relay? You select those, and then you initiate a transfer. As long as you initiate that before 3 p.m. PST on a business day, it'll clear the following morning. So it's really quick to actually get money in and settled, and we really want that to be as easy as possible. And then if you work with like a smaller credit union, we have like micro deposit functionality. So we make 2 deposits, each less than $1. Those will arrive in 1 business day, verify those amounts in Relay, and then you have that link set up, and then you can initiate a transfer.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's very simple. And I'll talk about this a little bit later, but we've actually started to use Relay too. And that whole experience was a really good experience. But one thing that really intrigued me about Relay, and this is something that I haven't seen any other bank offer, is the idea of this digital debit card. And so, when you're giving an employee a credit card, or debit card, you might be a little concerned that employee is going to, they have access to a physical card. So wherever they might be, they can start running that thing. And so sometimes that might be of a concern. But explain a little bit this idea of a digital card where you don't have anything physical. So if you have someone that's doing ordering online and things like that, they don't need an actual physical card to do that when they have a digital card. So explain a little bit how that works with the idea of a digital debit card versus just having that hard copy.
Absolutely. So with Relay, as we talked about, you can have a physical card, or like we call them like virtual cards. And so the virtual cards work exactly the same as like your traditional physical debit card. Just the difference is that you don't get the piece of plastic, and it's instantly activated and you start using it straight away. So imagine like that 10-minute sign up, fund your account, and then issue a card, and you're ready to go, and you can start operating with your Relay account. And so the benefit of the virtual card is, one, you can issue it to an employee really quickly. Let's say, we actually just added a team member and they wanted to go and buy milk for the team. And I was like, okay, well, we're just going to issue you a virtual card that they could then actually add to their Apple Pay or Google Pay. And they were able to go out into the real world and make a purchase. Or the other case is, hey, we use a virtual card for all of our like software subscriptions, as an example, right? So here's the card number, and they would be able to access it, and you can actually control their level of access, as well as set up rules on the card. So you could say, oh, on this card, since it's for snacks for the office, people should only be able to spend at a maximum like $30 a day, or whatever the amount is. And you can actually set up financial controls. And that's really the way we want to enable small business owners to take control of their finances. And I think that alleviates some of the initial fear around like, oh, it's a debit card, you're actually accessing money straight away. How do I control that?
Yeah, I think that's an awesome feature that, again, I haven't seen that done in traditional banking. And one thing that when we have guests on our show, and our listeners know this, is that first off, we don't pay them, we don't get paid or anything like that. This is just kind of sharing information for our customer, listeners. But one biggest thing is that we don't just bring anybody and everybody on this show. And so whenever we bring somebody on to talk about a new kind of service offering or a better way to do things, we actually vet it ourselves. And so that's something that we've done with Relays. I said, everything sounds great, Yosef, but I want to try it out myself before I can actually say, yeah, this is something that I think would be a good solution for other business owners. And so that's something that we've done. We set up a Relay, we started a use case, and kind of everything you've talked about here is very easy. It's submitting the few documents that you need to get started, accounts live, fund it from our Chase account, and next thing we know, we can start issuing debit cards and processing payments. And so the process was extremely smooth. And so that's one of the main reasons I said we need you have you on the podcast is because I know how much of a game changer this can be for us, not just on a new way of doing banking, but when we're also looking at doing our bookkeeping and making that a simpler process, having a direct feed, having easy access to our financials is huge for us. And that's the type of experience we want our clients to experience as well, and not just be stuck in the old way of doing things. So when we bring a client on, we're introducing them to cloud technology. We're bringing them on Xero. We're bringing them on QuickBooks Online, whatever it might be. And that's one piece of their business that might have been on a desktop. So that's one thing that we're bringing into more modern. But there are so many other things in the realm of running a business that are not quite at that modern space. And this is one of them. And so that's the main reasons why I wanted to have you on the show, is just to explain the possibility that's out there. Many people just might not know something like this is even available, but once they do, they can kind of see the added benefits of it. So just to kind of take all this, so we realize kind of what Relay is. We know kind of the added benefits, how the ease of use and everything about Relay. But take us back to kind of the roots. How did Relay start? Where did this idea come from? Kind of what is the founding story of where Relay came, outside of, obviously you being in the tech space, but kind of where's that founding reason for starting Relay?
Yeah. So I spent, 4.5 years at a company called HubDoc, like we talked about. And throughout the time, I kind of kept a list of ideas. Sometimes those were things I thought of myself. Sometimes it was just hearing, the two Jamies, who are the founders of HubDoc, complain about something. And one of the things they complained about often was banking. And as a team, I think we went through like multiple credit cards just to be able to like transact without having to just rely on one card. And so that was like the beginning. And when I made the decision to leave HubDoc, I was actually spending half my time consulting, and then I spent the other half my time actually going door to door to restaurants, to coffee shops, to establishments in Toronto in different neighborhoods, actually going and meeting business owners and talking to them about their banking, and trying to better understand, like, what are your pain points? You want it to be easier. You want like better financial visibility. You want it to actually deliver value above and beyond just being a holding place for your money. And so that was where we started. And what we kind of thought about deeply was like, okay, what are other things that we know that like very few people know? And when we look at the HubDoc experience, and for those who aren't familiar with HubDoc, HubDoc was like the central repository for small business financial documents. And at the core of that, we built web scrapers that would go and download like bank statement PDFs on behalf of firms and the clients that they worked with. And those firms would spend, anywhere from a few $100s to like thousands of dollars. Like I'm talking about like $5,000-$10,000 a month for us to go through and literally hit a button to download bank statement PDFs. And so when we thought about that problem, it was kind of like, okay, access to banking data is like a huge pain point. The fact that people literally like paid us so that they didn't have to go to someone's website and log in, right? Mm-hmm. Access was a huge pain point. And then the other was like actually the quality of banking data. I think my favorite quote from an advisor was like, trying to read banking data is like trying to learn to read code. So you end up spending a lot of time either asking clients, Google searching, or like, actually getting the supporting documentation if you're lucky enough to get it for that transaction. And so when we looked at those two problems, access to banking data, quality banking data, we kind of thought, okay, how does this actually get solved? And the only way, in our view, was that one of the big banks, one, learns how to open up like their API so they can connect into key systems like Xero, like we've done. And two is they learn how to build software. And I think there's a debate as to whether that really ever happens in a meaningful way. But if it does, our thought was like, okay, it'll probably take them 10 to 15 years to actually really get there. And so we thought that's a pretty big window. What if we reimagined the small business banking experience from the ground up to take into account that small business owners want it to be easier, that they want a better customer experience, they want it to actually add value to their business, as well as take the other side of that equation on the advisor side, where it's like easy to access high quality banking data. And what if we were to take these two sides of that equation and turn that into a business bank? And so that's how we started Relay. So we incorporated in like October of last year, raised capital, and it's been really exciting. Like seeing business owners grow on our platform is like so satisfying and amazing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because you.
That's awesome, and I like the approach that you took to it. It wasn't just, hey, we see it's a problem, based on kind of the inside approach that you had working with accountants and business owners. You said, I want to take it a step further and actually reach out to business owners and find out what their pain points are, at a different level. So it's not just, we're not fixing just this for accountants. We're fixing this for business owners as a whole. And so I think that's, an awesome story on how you got to where you are today and how you have this fully robust and built out product, and where it came from. So with kind of this, obviously this is a very big step into kind of modern day technology and using banking. But, over and above from here forward, where do you kind of see the accounting space going in the next 5 years? And, how does Relay play a role in that?
Absolutely. So I think we have a lot of conversations with both Xero and Intuit around like how do they view banking as like a strategic opportunity to be able to make the product better. Because oftentimes actually the number one complaint for either of those products is actually bank feeds that work, right? They're like, that's what, or bank feeds that break. They want bank feeds that work. And so, from an accounting and banking perspective, our belief is that there will be an increasingly symbiotic relationship between the two, and you'll see banking deeply integrated into the accounting system. So thinking about like, oh, what if you could actually pay bills from inside of like Xero or QuickBooks Online using your pre-existing bank account? Or the ability for your bank to actually import bills and set up like approval workflows for those bill payments and make sure the data is getting pushed back into the accounting system. So our belief is that like because we have high quality data, if we can deliver like kind of the most comprehensive transactional data set for businesses and deliver that into the accounting system, categorized with like a lot of context, I believe that this is how we actually get to, Xero talks about like code-free accounting, right? I think this is how we do it, is by creating a strong relationship between the bank and between the general ledger, which is the accounting system.
And I think that's big. It's like Xero can't do it themselves, or QuickBooks Online can't do it themselves. Because they rely so heavily on the bank piece, there is that extra piece that has to come in. And just kind of what you're talking about, I wish I could just jump 5 years ahead right now and be in that kind of world, because it sounds like it's just such a more symbiotic experience for clients and accounts and how they do banking. So this has been great. Yeah, it's been a lot of good information. So I'll also include this in our show notes as well. But how do people, if they want to learn more about Relay, they want to get started, they want to test out some of the features behind it, how do people move forward in reaching out to you and getting started on Relay?
Yeah, so you can find us either by searching for like Relay Bank, will be the first link there, or you can go directly to our website, Relay, RELAYFI.com, and you can sign up. We do have a bit of a wait list. So if you would like to get ahead, just email me directly, yoseph@relayfi.com. That's yoseph@relayfi.com.
Okay, awesome. Well, Yoseph, I really appreciate you coming on. I think we'll have a lot of this is going to be extremely useful to listeners, clients, everyone alike. So I appreciate you coming on. And as clients come, or as listeners come back with further questions, there's likely going to be an opportunity where we're going to say, let's bring Yoseph back on and dive even deeper into maybe functionality, things like that. So definitely thank you for taking the time today and coming on.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Now, one last thing before I go. Don't forget to check out our podcast website at www.taxsavingspodcast.com. That's taxsavingspodcast.com. This is a great resource to go and check out our most recent episodes, as well as find extra items if you want to take what we discuss here and dive deeper. Again, also join our Facebook group where we share tons of value, and you have the opportunity to bring situations you are faced with to the table, and we'll help you out in that Facebook group, and other business owners will support you as well. You can join by simply searching in Facebook for the Small Business Tax Secrets group. Again, it's a Facebook group called Small Business Tax Secrets, and there should be a group that pops up that you can join.
This has been another episode of the Small Business Tax Savings Podcast from the team at Jetro and Associates. If you have any questions, feel free to email them. tax@jetrotax.com. We have packages for small business owners starting at just $75 a month. If you enjoyed our podcast, please take the time out to give us a 5-star review in iTunes or wherever you listen. This helps us to bring you useful tips to help you grow your small business. Thanks for listening and have a great day.